Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast, episode number 45. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. Closer and closer to football season we come. What's happening, Level? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. And you're right, boy, it is getting closer. It's little NFL preseason. The Red Raiders, I guess, have recently scrimmaged. So, yeah, it's getting a little bit closer. Still got a ways to wait. But, yeah, we're getting into the early stages of August here, getting through that. So, just not too much more time, man. And the Red Raiders will be in lovely Laramie.
Lovely Laramie. I wonder if it's ever been described as that.
Put it on a shirt. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it as we get closer, more and more of the preseason awards coming in, that happens, or award watch lists, I should say, happens every year. But I know we've talked about it a lot, but the hype is just there for Texas Tech. Depending when you watch this, the AP poll will come out probably by the time you watch this or close to it. We already know the coaches polled. Texas Tech's in the coaches poll. So, I mean, we saw Brett McMurphy. He's really high on Joey McGuire. He puts him at number 11 in his personal AP poll. So you continue to see that buildup. And I know we talked about it last week, but you haven't had this kind of hype around your program preseason since really the 2008 season. So it's an exciting time, I guess, if you're a Red Raider fan. Another football game sold out. The Houston game this week that was announced this week. So you got 2 games sold out before the season even starts. There's so much anticipation for this season, and I think a lot of it is warranted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think I get people like here's the thing. I certainly can understand the hype.
Mm-hmm.
I can also understand the people that like point to the hype and feel like it's a bit unwarranted.
Okay.
Depending on, the kind of hype we're talking about. Because I think Brett McMurphy is like prime example. I've had him on when I was doing the radio show where you work and everything. We had him on the show multiple times, big time, college football writer that covers it 365. He's worked for ESPN, now works for the Action Network, and on it goes. And look, he doesn't just toss that out there willy-nilly. He's got that based in various, I'm sure, conversations and sentiment around the country from people that he's talked to, and then ultimately was like, okay, well, this is my opinion, this is my ballot,
right?
But he doesn't just conjure that up out of thin air. But I certainly get the people that are going, dude, what is wrong with you? I mean, what is going on? Look, you haven't done it in a while. You haven't. You were 4-5 at one point last year, and you won a ton of close games. You converted a lot of fourth downs. I mean,
right.
It's very fair for somebody to go, what if they don't win the close games? What if they don't convert 63% of the time on fourth down? What if they were a 4-5 team that just kind of got lucky at the? I mean, who knows, And so I certainly get the, some of the questions being asked and some of the criticism lobbed that way. But then I look at it from the flip side and like, what if they just were that good? What if they were? What if this is what life is like with Tyler Shuck at quarterback? And what if they hit their stride and then you see a team that won 4 in a row and the bulk of it comes back. So. I certainly get both sides of it, but I'm appreciating the hype. It's kind of fun to be on this side of the coin, and don't let I know a lot of Red Raider fans out there have kind of PTSD from we're so much better when we're under the radar. Joey would tell you screw that. We're not okay with being under the radar anymore. We will have high expectations. This is the world we are going to live in. Embrace it, deal with it. It's only going to go up from here.
Yeah, and I like that mindset because he's been in plenty of successful spots in the past. Like you look where all he's been. whether it be his most immediate recent stop at Baylor, they had lots of success while he was on campus there. Of course, the high school championships speak for themselves. So he's a guy that doesn't shy away from winning, and has had success with that approach. That being said, you got a lot of players that are getting some individual hype, and I think that's a reflection of why you're getting the national hype, is because of this roster. You're returning 18 guys that started games for you last season, and there's a whole lot of experience on this roster.
Yeah, and let's go through, list them off.
Okay.
Choice. I mean, Taj Brooks was the most recent. I know Tyler Shuck is on the watch list. Who else am I? I mean, Hutchings
has been on one. Tony Bradford's had his name out there. Rusty Stats for the Remington Award. I think the center. Austin McNamara.
Oh, for punter,
the Thorpe. I think that's I may be missing one or two, because it just comes in waves at this time of the season. But you got guys, scattered kind of everywhere throughout the team, special teams, offense, defense, for these awards, and it does show that you're a pretty well-rounded team. It's not just, okay, you're going to have a fantastic defense this year, but the offense is questionable. It seems like you've got a lot of talent scattered everywhere.
Yeah, and I think what Joey would tell you is that in recent practices and in the scrimmage, it's been both sides of the ball throwing haymakers. And while one side of the ball may have a couple of day run, then the other side of the ball responds, and that's kind of what you want. It's always weird, like when you're in a spring game, for example. When you're sitting there broadcasting it, and I'm an alum and everything, and and I'm sitting there watching it, it's like, okay, anytime something good happens, something bad happens. But this is so it's tricky, and because I think for years around here, the mindset was the offense should dominate, because that was kind of your bread and butter. And I think Tim DeRuyter and Keith Patterson before him certainly have changed that dynamic quite a bit. But yeah, you are very balanced. And I don't know, these awards, I don't know if anybody has a realistic shot to win it. I think that internally, I think there's a lot of high praise for Taj, certainly Tyler, and guys like Rusty, and then the defensive tackle duo. Austin McNamara may not get enough opportunities to ultimately win that one, although it doesn't discredit how good of a punter he is, because I think he's a guy that's going to play at the next level, or have a chance to, just because he's such a good athlete, and he's a really good punter. You combine that, and the NFL loves that.
I think Austin's stat that really stood out, among active players, he's got the third best career average of anybody in the country. So, it shows he can boom it.
Yeah. Well, again, when given the chance.
And you're hoping it's nothing against the punter. I hope to not see you too much out there, Austin.
Yeah, it's limited. But if you have the kind of year that you hope to, i.e. Big 12 championship type year, playing for a Big 12 championship type year, Tyler Shuck, in my opinion, will be the one candidate that's got the best chance, I think, to register with some of these things, just because I think he'll kind of need to be a key part. I just don't view Taj, his usage, or him being such a massive stat guy,
right,
that in the country that he would, because I just don't think they'll utilize him that way. And Shuck his numbers may be modest enough too, to where even if he does stay healthy and play well, it may not be so overwhelming, but I guarantee you he will have the most to do with it. That's kind of an easy layup, low hanging fruit type of answer. But but to me, his stat, the biggest one would be wins. Yeah, that's what will tell you, whether he's got a chance to do some damage in the award season. But anyway, we got a long way to go before that. I just hope he stays healthy through and is playing into October.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Quarterbacks are judged on wins. It's just as simple as that. So if Texas Tech is winning, he's going to have his name highlighted as well. We'll talk some realignment in a moment. A couple of questions from the audience. This is from our YouTube, which you can watch these podcasts on YouTube. You can watch them or listen to them anywhere you get your podcasts. Salt of the Earth on YouTube says, "Can you give us some insight on the Tech players in the portal?"
Oh, that is a large statement. I don't know if I understand what they mean by that. I mean, there's nobody in the portal now. Now there was some baseball players that hopped in, most recently.
Mm-hmm. I think they've all found homes since then, I believe.
Correct. Mostly at Arkansas. If this is a basketball related question, I think that mostly guys got into the portal mostly had to do with just the coaching change and kind of schematic change and just philosophy change and just, maybe it's best for me to not be here. Maybe it's best for you to not be here, depending on which side of that coin that you're on, whether it's staff's call or whether that's a player's call. Football player wise, I mean, you lose a couple of DBs in the last portal, cycle that I think, semi stung you. I think you've done everything to replace them and maybe even more to this point. And that was Reggie Pearson and Kobe Minor. I think those two guys would have played. They would have been semi-starters, top rotational guys, special teams, defense, all the above. But I think Mo Horn steps up. I think Braylon Lux has certainly stepped up. And Tyler Owens. And I've talked to Tyler Owens. I'm like, about this very thing. I'm like, I'm not overstating this by suggesting you're the reason why Reggie Pearson is no longer here. And he's like, no, sir. He's like, no, sir. Because he took his spot in bowl practices. And I think Tyler's a bit rangier. I think he's a bit better in coverage. I don't know if he hits quite as hard. Not many do compared to Reggie Pearson. But yeah, that's so. I don't know if I've glossed over it or just misunderstood the question. I just need a little more context there. But yeah, that would be my thoughts on, I guess, the various three sports that we talk about most here as it relates to the portal.
Yeah, but I guess right now there's just not really any portal action. This isn't the right time of year for that, right?
No, the windows are all closed. I think if anybody could get into the portal now, that they're sitting out the season. This is football conversation, and I guess basketball season too. I think the next window is in December, January-ish. They've kind of tweaked the rule on that to shrink it. I think I need to go back and look to see specifically what they've agreed to, or if that was just proposed and it's not in effect yet. But so in other words, like, for example, everybody's still, I still bump into people that are still worried about losing Baron Morton. He's not going anywhere.
Not right now.
The next window that would be was after this season. And yet Tyler Shuck graduates after this season. And so it's Baron Morton's program.
Yeah.
Okay. For the next 2 years. I mean, he's not going anywhere. You've weathered that storm, thankfully. Now you didn't weather it obviously with Donovan, but yeah, you don't have to worry about losing, a quarterback or anything like that. So.
Okay. Stick with the portal. I have a question from George that asks about AJ McCarty and what the eligibility. He says, will he be able to be eligible before the kickoff of the season, or will we have an answer?
Yeah, perfect segue here based on the conversation, because for all the reasons I just laid out, AJ got into the portal in June, I believe. Yeah. Texas Tech immediately recognized this entry into the portal and jumped all over it. And this is a player that I think they feel like is a starter here, whether he's eligible immediately or whether he is eligible not till next year. This is a player. And so listen to what I'm saying to you. I think he's a starter. If he's eligible, he's starting somewhere right now.
Wow.
That's what you're dealing with AJ McCarty. Now, I don't necessarily know where, for who, whatever, but that's the caliber of player you're dealing with. He was expected to start at corner for Baylor this season until things just kind of broke apart in Waco for him and the university and the football program. And I think he needs a change of scenery. But this is a player that Texas Tech knows well. They're originally the part of the staff that recruited him there. Joey and Kirk Bryant and Brian Nance and a variety of different James Blanchard, variety of different people in Waco whenever AJ McCarty showed up. As far as will he be eligible, I guess I'm going to tell you now, we don't ultimately know. We don't know when we will know. It's on the NCAA's timeline. I would just tell you I highly doubt it. Just because they have turned down most waivers. They have wanted to get out of the waiver business because they just are sick of making these decisions. And so that's why they hey, here's the portal window. Here's the portal. Here's the freebie transfer. Here's all these things available to you. And he kind of was outside of that. And so I'm guessing, plus he has a redshirt year still available to him.
Sure.
Which I guarantee you the NCAA will be aware of. But this could be a case of AJ McCarty could in fact be this year's Cole Spencer. And what I mean by that is it really sucks if you get bad news. In Cole Spencer's case, injury. In this case, it would just be eligibility. It really sucks. However, this time next year, you'll be thrilled. You're like, golly, man, it's kind of actually fun that he didn't get to play next year because now we get him for 2 more years. So, because think about how much different your team is right now with Cole Spencer on it. Now, maybe it triggers last year's team to be a bit better up front, and maybe that translates a bit more. I don't know. But I guess that's the way that's a good analogy that I would offer up.
A couple more football questions and we'll dabble in a little realignment before we close it down. This question from Jeff says, I know Bryce Ramirez has been practicing, but how much will he actually get to play for Tech this season?
Yeah, too early to tell. I think this is they're playing the long game here. I think the fact that he's walking normal, that he can run now, is one thing. The fact that he's actually practicing and cleared for a full go from a football standpoint is a minor miracle based on the injury that he suffered, and the potential nerve damage. And there was a lot of prayers being sent his way back in Raleigh with what had happened to him. It was a devastating injury that would have ended most people's careers. He just was like, man, I'm not done writing my story, man. And I think that the fact that he's out there smiling as big as he is, the fact that the head coach will tell you the two biggest voices in our locker room are the starting quarterback and this young man, really should tell you all you need to know, because there's not any of those people in that locker room, coach, grad assistant, trainer, player, manager, nutritionist, on and on, that literally can feel sorry for themselves with whatever they're dealing with when you have endured what he's endured, and feel like mopey or sad about whatever's going on with their situation. He was laid up for a while. He was told lots of things, yet he just kind of kept that smile on his face and kept on going. And now here he is. So as far as like actual, I think it's just too early to tell. But I would anticipate something if he can kind of not have any hiccups, and again, he hadn't played in a while, right? I mean, so you got to knock the rust off. You got to work through the injury. You got to trust it. And all that. He's got some titanium in his leg, so I think he's going to trigger a mini metal detector going forward in his life. But yeah, I think so I'm not trying to gloss over the fact I don't know how much he will play, but I think so many of the victories and his goals have been achieved. However, he will be the first one to tell you, you're darn right I want to play a lot and have a meaningful role and be a factor in whether we win or lose games and things like that. But it's still early enough in camp to where we're not real sure yet what it looks like, because you're still, give or take 2.5 to 3.5 weeks away from the season, depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah. So, these things are, I mean, like you said, just the unbelievable story. Really cool to see that he's on the football field again, and love the heart of that guy. And that's the reason he wears the number 3 that Coach McGuire reserves for the toughest, hardest working, most competitive player. And that I got to make sure I get it all down.
The brand,
the brand, yeah,
that's right.
All right, one more question from the audience. This one from Randall. Level, what are the checkpoints that you're looking for through this season to know that the team is on track this year? So I don't know if this is winning certain games or what.
Well, not to be cliche, but if I were to tell you, this right now without knowing anything else, and this isn't gonna, I don't want to paint it with a broad brush here, but if I were to tell you you beat Oregon and the 2 purple teams at home this year, you're gonna feel like that you've had a really good year.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot that comes with that. And what I mean by that is there's still so much more that you would have to accomplish for it to really be a good year. However, those are 3 games, and they all signify something different. Oregon is going to be a perception, and these are just happen to be home games. You have tricky trips to Morgantown and Provo and Austin and all these other things, but the 3 games that I mentioned to you are going to be in some ways your biggest games of the year because of the meaning behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep winning, or if you start getting on a roll, they'll all be big. It won't matter who you're playing, where you're playing them, or whatever. They'll all be big because you're just, as we know in this sport, there's not much margin for error. But Oregon is a perception game. There will be many people that are ready to tell the Brett McMurphys of the world or whoever, told you. I mean, farce. These guys not ready for prime time. That's cute little story going on in Lubbock, but bye-bye goes all the hype that came with the season, even though it won't have anything to do with the conference race, but it's a perception game. Okay. If you win it though, Brett McMurphy's going to be like walking around the office with his chest puffed out and being like, I mean, guys, I try to tell you all summer, I try to tell you, and all the hype will, I think, even build a bit. The TCU game on a Thursday night, and then the Kansas State game, these are games that, these are the teams that played for the championship last year.
Right.
These are teams that have really largely had your number. You're 2-5 against TCU in the last 7, maybe. Mm-hmm. They've kind of owned you. Kansas State darn sure has owned you. You just like can't.
11 out of the last 12 or something. It's
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time I think you won in Manhattan was when Mike was coaching. I think they have, and this is a game that ultimately ended the tenure here of Matt Wells.
Yeah.
And these haven't been blowouts, but they just always beat you. They're just better than you are. And I think TCU kind of in some ways. And so if you're taking a next step, and you're going to contend for, these are must wins. Like you can't, because these are teams that are either picked to finish ahead of you or right by you, mm-hmm. and that are ranked in the top 25 as well coming into the year, all that stuff. And so that's those are 3 games right there that I would look at and say, man, if you could pop a 3-0 right there, I think that I'd like your chances. But again, so much more comes with that. But I think that I would kind of boil it down. So, but a 2-1, in that 3-game stretch, I think that means you need to be pretty perfect elsewhere, or you're not going to get to where you wanted to go.
And if you were to win all 3 of those games, the expectations for everything else around it goes sky high. So, I mean, it's all a relative conversation. This is a question we received earlier this week. It just popped into my head. I'm curious. If someone offered you 8-4 right now, I know you love these. Do you take it, or you roll the dice?
There are many years where I'm a bird in the hand guy, and I think, and I'll be the first one to tell you could go 8-4, because there's different 8-4s, there's different 7-5s, there's different 10-2s, there's different whatever. Without knowing how, are you playing with your third? I mean, is Jake Strong taking meaningful snaps in games this year? If he is at some level, I would probably look at the tail end and tell you 8-4 was pretty good.
Right.
Because 8-5 last year, I think is pretty damn good when you have three different starting quarterbacks and you had the injuries that you dealt with. But
feels a
with
lot different to finish a season on a 4-game winning streak than finish on a 4-game losing streak. Yeah, that
ask Baylor.
Yeah.
Ask Baylor, who was I think at one point like 6-2, and then the wheels just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But right now, with what I know, and I'm a big bird in the hand, guys. I told you, I typically will take the sure thing in many ways, but I'm not even sure. Choice. If you went, let me go one further to you. I think if you told me right now 9-3 or roll the dice, I still think I may roll them.
Wow,
which is a mouthful for me because it's not like you have had a bunch of 8-win seasons recently, much less 9. But I think I'd like to see where this thing is going to go, and so I'm not willing to.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not willing to, and we're talking regular season only here.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, it's a great debate, man. A great conversation. But I think, have some confidence. I try to tell this people all the time, so I'm going to look in the mirror and tell myself. And so with that, yeah, man,
all right.
Shake them up, shake them up, shake them.
You big dice guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, 7 come 11, high and low. Look out, baby! It's the come out roll. Yes, I am.
Look at that. Sometimes he's still surprised. After all the 45 episodes, you still got a little spark there to surprise this level.
Right.
Okay, so just give us quick shifting gears here. Just quick update on realignment. I mean, we had seems like everything's kind of fallen apart in terms of big conversations, ACC, Pac-12, that sort of thing. Is the dust finally settling, at least for now here?
Well, it kinda. I think what has been in some ways calming is that these conversations now are not really revolving, about the Big 12 anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's a few kind of stories that have involved them, but the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12 seemingly are the most quiet after all the initial moves that have taken place. And then now this is Pac-12, this is ACC, this is American Athletic, this is Mountain West, this is SMU. And so I because there were some original reports that you would still be looking to expand to 18 or certainly looking at that, whether that is the Gonzaga, UConn basketball only, whether this is, I think that there was one report, it was, what was it, Oregon State and San Diego State. I don't really buy any of that. I think the Big 12 has kind of gone out of their way to say, hey man, we're good for right now. We're calling kind of timeout. We need to figure out the 16 team deal first. I think that I don't think they can go look, because if they would have wanted 18, if with anything that was out there, I think they would have done it, because I think they were because they had it in their contract and they were having to go back to the TV partners to kind of go, because the ESPN part was locked in, the Fox was not. So Fox kind of had to give a thumbs up on these extra additions and making it right with full shares and all these things, because that wasn't actually in the language of the contract. They had just indicated, if you do this, I think we'll take care of it.
Right.
And so there was some back and forth. And then Fox has also gone to the Big Ten and said, yes, if you add Oregon and Washington, we will do our part in the contract. So I don't think that you're dealing with your TV partners right now and asking for, because if there was something out there for you to acquire that they would prefer, they would have told you. I think that the next step now is I'm fascinated that SMU is willing to, it's like, I heard this the other day. It's like SMU is like playing the municipal golf course on the weekend and wanting to like get on Augusta and just offering to like rake the traps if you let them play on Augusta instead of the public course.
That's a great analogy.
But I mean, hey man, I know I was playing on the public course down the street, but hey, St. Andrews, will you just let me on to play or Pebble Beach? Can I get a freebie, man?
Yeah.
In fact, I'll give you the keys to my home if you'll just let me on and play 18. I mean, willing to pay upwards of $200 million and so crazy. In other words, donors would be paying the media rights fees to the school So the ACC wasn't having to just let me in.
Yeah.
And I think they feel like that this is a now or never. And I'm fascinated by the whole SMU thing because in some ways it could be a now or never Power 4 type scenario. Last point I'll make is if there will be any more stories about Big 12 expansion, in my opinion, it will involve the ACC.
Right.
And it will involve, you see that Florida State, Clemson, and the Carolina schools said, I don't want Oregon. I mean, I don't want Cal and Stanford in this deal. We don't want that. And so Florida State, and I think semi-quietly, Clemson is making a lot of noise behind the scenes. I think they're tired of the status quo. I think they're trying to shake things up. At some point, somebody's going to fight this grant of rights deal. Maybe they get squashed. Maybe they have a leg up. Maybe Florida State goes private equity. I say all that to suggest that if anything happens in that league and there's a move of any kind, that's what I would say the Big 12 could possibly be in position to scoop up a few of the schools on the East Coast if it made some sense, and the TV folks said it made sense. But anyway, long conversation, long answer, but we'll just kind of wait and see, because there's some people that have said by mid-August, and you and I are kind of doing this just before mid-August, that the Florida State would be out, and I don't for sure know where they think they're going.
Right.
The SEC has said they're good. Now, of course, they're going to, hey, we're all good until they're not. And then they just, kind of work the backdoor deal. Sure. I don't think that the Big Ten, who already feels bloated at 18, is going to, go to 20. I don't know. But it's wild to follow. But there's more out there, Choice.
Yeah.
There's more moves to be made. Some of them may be subtle. Some of them may be bigger than others, but there's still more movement to be had, in my opinion.
But it feels like it takes at least a year at a time on some of these things. It feels like anything imminent, as people use that word so much, is never.
Florida State feels like they've been waiting,
right?
And they're like, you know what? If we have to go get money from some Saudi Arabia-backed private equity firm,
how crazy is that?
To borrow $500 million to sell away part of our athletic department to get out of this deal, that's what we may do. Whether that was a shot, a warning shot, whether that was real, I don't know. But it's pretty fascinating. But they are quite unhappy, and they've made no bones about that.
Yeah. So it's been a wild summer with realignment. I'm guessing we'll just see it all kind of, at least it'll go towards the back burner as football season arrives, and
which I'm kind of ready for, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I'm the same way.
The next thing though that here's the other realignment tentacle that I think that I am fascinated about. In fact, I'm really glued into it.
Okay.
There are so many things that have happened because of realignment that are now affected. And let's localize this. And I know we're running out of time here.
Okay.
But, how will the Big 12 schedule? You doing pods, you doing divisions?
Mm-hmm.
What are your bowl tie-ins? How will the format of the Big 12 basketball and baseball tournaments go with now all of these teams? Yeah. How does the basketball season get scheduled? There's so many things that have now changed seemingly overnight that need to be decided like right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I am most fascinated by, because we all love sports. We're going to get, and so I'm just curious how everyday life is going to be in this league with 16 teams now going forward from an every season and different sport type of occurrence. So there's so many things that have now changed that, and then again, does the league champ in football still get an automatic bid to the college football playoff like we once thought?
Yeah.
You may not. And with that, if that's not the case, then how are you scheduling your regular season differently? Do you got enough meat on the bone to, in your regular season to trigger your, strength of schedule, data and all? I mean, there's a lot that has changed that we still need to sort through. That's what I'm most focused on, not who's necessarily switching leagues anymore.
Yeah. And you know what, we'll go through some of that next week, kind of look at possibilities of pods and what's all that, those effects of stuff that are still giant question marks in the wake of realignments. We'll cover some of that next week, but we're out of time this week. Level, good stuff as always, my man. Appreciate you.
You too, man. Enjoyed it. We are getting closer. Keep hope alive, everybody. And email us with questions. Drop questions in the YouTube comments. Send them to Woodman at Double T973. Send them to me at Chris Level on Twitter. And what's your Twitter handle, Woodman?
It's at Chois Woodman. Pretty easy.
At Choice Woodman. Choice.
Choice.
CHOIS.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. There he is. Enjoyed it, man.
Absolutely. That's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.